可不可以把照相那个
他不是
哦，
要
他先
转
ruffle 好。
Yeah.
So good evening, everyone. Welcome to our sutra lecture. We'll begin with the Dharma Request. So invite everyone to please put your palms together as we request the presence of the triple jewel. 欢迎大家，我们现在请法，请三宝来护持道场，诚心的来学佛法。
For the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadanto sujedoye alahadi samya sambuddhoje.
Namo sadanto suchedoye alahadi sanmya samputoshye.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and receive it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Okay, all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, all Dharma friends present and Dharma friends online, Amitofo. Welcome to another Infinite Life Sutra lecture. 诸佛菩萨上人，各位法师，各位善知识，当场的跟线上的，我们今晚是来研究无量寿经所以我们先开始是来念佛，请阿弥陀佛到我们心中。今天我们会学到他的无量光可以照到我们心中。Can we move the camera closer? Yeah. So now we're going to recite Amitabha Buddha's name, and this is a chance to invite the light of Amitabha into our hearts. When we read the sutra, we realize Amitabha's light's always shining on us, but oftentimes we don't know because we're too caught up in our confusion. But we recite Amitabha Buddha's name, and it reminds us that Amitabha Buddha's care and compassion, wisdom and kindness is always shining. 好，来念佛。南无阿弥陀佛，爱南无阿弥陀佛，爱南无阿弥陀佛，爱南无阿
可以了吗？
可以。
好，诸佛菩萨、仙公上人，以及在座的法师，还有在座的我们的佛友，还有线上的佛友，大家一起晚安，阿弥陀佛。
So all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, Dharma Master, and all good and wise friends online and in person, Amitofo.
今天是9月16号，我们在伯克利这边，我们来继续研究这个《佛说无量寿经》，然后我们会在60页的中文，还有61页的英文。
So today is September 16th, and we'll continue to investigate the Infinite Life Sutra. We're on pages 60 and 61.
好，我们先来念一下这个中文60页的这个中间，其有众生依师光者，这个然后念到皆蒙解脱，这样这个中间3行。
So we're on line 8 in the Chinese, such as Qi You Zhongshen. And in the English, we begin when living beings encounter his light.
好，我们大家一起念了，节省时间。好，大家一起念了。其有众生是意识光者，三垢消灭，身意柔软，欢喜踊跃，善心生焉。若在山土清苦之处，见此光明，戒得休息，勿复苦恼，寿终之后，皆蒙解脱。好，英文就
Now, English. And I'll read it together. Putting the Buddha's words in our own mouths. When living beings encounter his light, their 3 kinds of defilement melt away. Their bodies and minds become pliant and soft. They are filled with joy and happiness. Thoughts of goodness naturally arise in their hearts. If living beings in the 3 realms of extreme suffering see his light, they all find relief and freedom from their pain and suffering. At the end of their lives, they're all led to liberation.
好，这个所以这个一样的，就是说上一次我们都在讲无量寿佛的12光嘛，然后今天就是来继续我们再来阐明，就是来讲明这个见到佛光之后的殊胜利益，这个就是今天这个重点。
So last week we talked about Amitabha Buddha's 12 different kinds of light. Today we're going to discuss the amazing, wondrous benefits of encountering his light.
所以这个经文的一开始，他就讲：其有众生依师光者，就是说我们这个所有现在的众生，包括以前那时候讲的，还有现在的众生呢，依到这个无量寿佛的12光佛的人呢，他就是这一些人，指这一些人，师光者就是人。
It talks about all those who encounter the Buddha's light, all the 12 kinds of different light of the Buddha.
那遇到这一些人呢，他遇到这些光呢，三垢消灭，这个就是我们的贪嗔痴，这个三垢，这一些都消除没有了。
So the 3 kinds of defilement melt away. These defilements are greed, anger, and stupidity. They just disappear.
然后身意柔软，就是身就是讲我们的身体，然后意就是讲我们的心意，我们的内心里面都会变得非常柔和，来顺软的这样子。
So the light, when it touches living beings, not only melts away their defilements, but their bodies become soft and supple, their minds become flexible and pliant.
然后呢，那个人呢也会欢喜荣耀，就是说他会非常的高兴活跃起来这样子。
So these people also become extremely happy and joyful.
然后善心生焉，就是说他每个人都有善良的心，然后这时候就升起来了。
So the goodness naturally arises in their hearts.
然后呢，再继续讲这个，像这个，在这个山途那时候，假如说都在这个山途勤苦，这里我们的经文是讲勤苦之次啊。那我看其他的祖师大德他们是讲疾苦，疾就是非常苦啊，疾苦之次。Yeah.
So it talks about those realms of extreme suffering, the 3 lower realms of extreme suffering.
所以在那边三恶道是非常苦的地方呢。他们见到这个12光的这个光明呢，然后都会得到这个休息，就是在地狱里面的这些呢，就得到了休息了，没有这苦了。
So when they encounter this light, they experience relief. They no longer have to undergo all this suffering of the hells and the hungry ghosts and the animal realms.
所以无复烦恼，所以就没有苦，就没有这些烦恼了。然后最终之后呢，都结盟解脱。这个最重要的就是说，这个他这些三途苦的人呢，他的寿命终了之后呢，都得到解脱。我想这个也包括我们5024现在的这些人呢。假如说你在非常痛苦，然后你能够念佛念到这个光，得到这个光的话，得到这个佛光，那你就马上就得到这个解脱，当时就没有痛苦了。
So at the end of their lives, they are led to liberation. So by being sincere in our recitation of the Buddha's name, we can receive his light and become liberated.
所以假如是说假如说没有念到得到这个光，我想这个最重要。很多的祖师大德他们都是可以念到念佛三昧，这个当然就可以得到这个解脱的这个。假如说没有关系，我们就继续念，我们去希望极乐世界阿弥陀佛那里也是可以得到解脱的。
So there's many of the great practitioners, teachers, masters, patriarchs of the past who recited the Buddha's name and were able to enter the Amitabha recitation samadhi. And if we can't do that, it's okay. We can also recite and go to the Pure Land, and there we can really cultivate and realize liberation.
那为什么像这个经文里面讲到这个就是众生能够遇思光者就能够得到解脱呢？为什么原因呢？所以今天我们也可以来了解一下。
Question: How come living beings can realize liberation from meeting Amitabha Buddha's light? We will investigate this topic tonight.
因为这个12光如来呢，因为他算是有智慧，当然也有一个叫做智慧光如来，因为这个就是佛的这个智慧。那他这个佛的智慧是可以照见真理。
So all these different kinds of Buddhas with different names of light, look above, these are wisdom. The light is like wisdom. There's actually a name for the Buddha here, which is called wisdom light, Tathagata, wisdom light Buddha. And this light shines and it illuminates true principles.
那这个还有像这个光的这个佛啊，它具有智慧，它是具有般若智慧的。
So the Buddha has wisdom. He has prajna wisdom.
像这个《涅盘经》里面呢，第8他也提到，如来他已经是他都断了这个无量烦恼，他是住在智慧山里面的。
Says that the Buddha is free of all suffering, free of all affliction, and he lives in the mountain of wisdom.
然后这个比喻经里面呢，他也讲，因为这个佛的智慧呢，它可以洗烦恼的垢，这个垢就是三垢啊。
So, and also another sutra, the Analogy Sutra, he's able to clean away the defilements of. His light can actually clear away the defilements.
然后这个文殊宿利菩萨经里面，他也有提到，我们的心性呢，本来都是清净干净的，因为我们诸垢，那就会产生了很多的这个垢，就是说不好的东西。那用这个佛的智慧水呢，它是来清除这个心垢的。
Sri Bodhisattva says that we have a pure nature that's free of defilement, but it gets covered over, and the Buddha's wisdom light penetrates through.
然后呢，人呢，就是其实比喻经里那个算我们人有烦恼呢。就是说，我们的心中有事，心中没有事的话呢，就是没有烦恼，就那一切都自然，然后一切都会如意的。
So in the Analogy Sutra, that this wisdom light is able to, you could say, illuminate and break through the various defilements and afflictions, and so it's able to is able to break through all the afflictions of living beings, whether our hearts have worries or not, is able to break through.
像这个在所以我们的这个现在当五浊恶世呢，我们的算人生呢，我们都知道人生是一个舞台啦，就是说我们大家好像做梦的舞台，然后我们上台，但是总会也有下台的时候，上台总有下台时。
This is our life is like a stage. So we get on the stage, and if we get on the stage, for sure we're going to also get off the stage.
所以呢，我们的人生目标呢，所以我们要用三勤，就是勤苦，刚才讲的这个勤苦来三勤，我们来做我们的人生目标。哪三勤呢？第一个，我们要勤劳工作；第二个，我们要勤苦的来学佛；第三个，我们要勤快的念佛。
So because of that, we have to get on the stage and we're going to get off the stage. There's three things. Let's say it this way. We have to think carefully about our life goals. What do we want to do with this life? And there's a recommendation that we have three areas we apply our energy, called the three qing, 3 places of working hard. So the first is we need to work hard. 第一个是就是工作上，
勤劳，
we just need to be diligent. Do our work well. Whatever we are responsible for, we do it well. The second is we want to apply our lives in learning the Dharma.
Yeah, 这个很重要的。
Very important. And the third one is recite the Buddha's name.
Yeah， 我们来念佛，我们将来就可以去阿弥陀佛那里，那所有的烦恼都没有了，都解脱了。
So if we can recite the Buddha's name, then we can be reborn in the Pure Land, and all our afflictions are washed away, and we're free.
这里有一个故事啊，我看一个故事，他说有一个人啊，他被关到监狱里面呢，这个监狱里面的牢房呢是非常的小，大概只有一个床那么大的地方，差不多2平方米这个大小，所以呢非常的狭小，因为你要在那里生活，要在那里，而且都非常不自在的，非常的苦恼。
So there's a story about a person who was put into jail, and he had to live in a very small cell, about the size of a bed, maybe 6 square feet, right, just the size of a bed. And so he had lived there the whole time, so it was very miserable, just a lot of suffering.
所以呢，都非常的像难过这样子。但是有一天呢，一只这个苍蝇飞进来他的这个房间，然后他一直在嗡嗡的叫，他也觉得更烦，所以他一直想要把这个苍蝇把它捉到，然后来把它踩死。但是呢，这个他要捉它的时候，苍蝇飞来飞去，他没有办法抓到这个苍蝇。
So he's really miserable in the jail cell, kind of upset, and then a fly comes in, and the fly is just flying around. So like it's even more miserable. And he goes, I gotta kill this fly. This fly is just too annoying. And he tries to kill the fly, capture it, catch it, but he can't. It just every time he tries to grab it, it flies away.
所以他这样子在那里抓来抓去，抓不到他，最后也没有办法，所以他那时候呢，他就想，原来啊，我的房间还那么大，你看，虽然只有2米宽呢，这个是因为我自己心里面有烦恼，所以心中有事呢，2米宽呢。心中无事呢，这个就是任飞翔。这个任飞翔当然也就是这个苍蝇在那里飞来飞去，就是这样子。他就想到了他这个一个道理，这样子。
任飞翔是什么意思？
任飞翔
就可以飞来飞去。So he thought to himself, he kept trying to capture this fly and just can't catch this fly. All of a sudden he had an insight. Wow, this jail cell, I always felt so small. But when this fly, able to fly all around, I realized if my mind is afflicted, it's really small. But when I don't have afflictions, then this room is a place you can fly around in. So he has a line, 在哪里写？心中有事. So the mind has afflictions.
因为它只有2米宽嘛。
This 6 square feet. It's just a 6 square foot room.
Yeah.
If my heart has no afflictions, then I can fly wherever I want.
Yeah. 所以他这个就是说，当然他是想到这个苍蝇，其实啊也可以。他那时候他大概他也想通了，其实他心啊，他可以飞到外面世界。所以他虽然身体在监狱，但是他可以想啊。他用他的思想，他可以想到中国大陆啊，或者欧洲啊，他去那里旅游去了，可以我自在了，这样子的一个任飞翔的，跟他这个也是相同的道理。
So you can say he can get out of jail before he got out of jail. He's in jail, his body's in jail, but his mind can actually go out and fly all around. He can think of China, go visit Europe, be a tourist, really free.
所以这个就是说他心中呢，他有事跟没事呢 所以这个都是自己想的，一切为心造，所以我们也要了解这个道理。
So he had his insight, everything is made from the mind alone. So his insight was from this principle.
还有这个有一个禅师也是蛮有名的，就是无门慧开禅师啊，他也讲过呢，春天的时候，春有百花，秋有叶，夏有凉风，冬有雪。若无闲事挂心头，便是人间好时节。他讲的这个一首诗呢，在我们的这个禅语录里面是非常有名的。
So there's a poem. I'm going to ask one of the laymen here, Simon, can you translate that? The poem that he just said?
好了，我来解释了。好了，春天的时候呢，百花盛开，然后秋天呢，有秋叶，像现在我们中秋节马上到了，秋天有叶，这个是一个句，春有百花，秋有叶。
Okay, so the springtime there's 100 flowers, in autumn there is the moon.
Okay. 然后呢，夏有凉风，冬有雪，就是夏天呢，非常很热，但是也是有清凉的风可以吹进来。然后冬天呢是有雪的，这个是一定的道理。冬天有白雪，不管怎么样呢，这些都是自然的事情啊，大自然的事情。假如自己无事挂心头，若无闲事挂心头，假如说你没有什么挂碍的事情在心头呢，就是我们人间最好的时光。其实这个自己不要去想那些挂碍的事情，那你天天都是好时光的。
So it says the summer has a cool breeze and the winter has snow. Summer, although it could be hot, still has a cool breeze, and the snow in the winter time is, just part of nature. It's very natural. So if we can have a heart or mind that's completely free of kind of worries and affliction, then that's our heart is very, very happy, very, very peaceful. This is truly the best, and this is really, you could say, the best time of our lives. The best time of our lives is when nothing's going on.
Yeah. 所以呢，其实我们人生在世呢，十之八九都会碰到不如意的事情啦。就是说，我们绝对好像我们也有讲过，释迦牟尼佛也有讲过，跟一个弟子开示呢。你不要想人生怎么样子，都会碰到不如意的事情的。
So we all will meet things that don't go our way in our lives, but we just don't want to attach to it and get all worked up about it. There's somebody helped translate it online. It's quite nice. It says, blossoms in spring, breezes in summer, glorious moons in fall, and snow in winter. When one is held back by nothing, maybe say this way, when one is attached to nothing, mind is completely free. Every moment is wonderful.
Yeah. 所以这个很重要的一个我们的心理观念啊。所以呢，我们像刚才讲的不如意事情发生的时候呢，我们要用平常心来对待，也是要用非常乐观的人生来对待，这样子呢是有智慧的一个表现。
So we want to be able to have a very, you could say, a positive outlook on life and not get all worked up about little things. Then we can have a good life.
那这有智慧的这个表现呢，这个时候就是我们经上的善心生焉，所以这个也是经文上的这个日言善心的一个力量。
So our wisdom naturally arises and thoughts of goodness arise in our hearts, like it says in the sutra.
那这个善身你出现呢，生起来对于自己、对于国家都是非常有利益的。好像我也有一个故事跟大家讲，这个就是美国总统罗斯福的一个故事。
So this is not just beneficial for ourselves, but also for our society. I have another story. I don't know if somebody knows. Lo Su Fu is who?
罗斯福，
Jerry Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt. 不我可以讲一个关于一个故事，刚刚讲的。So Jing Forsher brought up, finding freedom even though you're in jail, before you leave jail. I just want to share something that I've mentioned a couple of times in the lectures about people who are actually in jail in San Quentin.
对呀、
And there's a program called GRIP, Guiding Rage into Power, where they actually go in, and that's actually like their motto. Their mottos, actually they say, hurt people, heal people, but their goal is to help people get out of jail while still being in jail, because they allow them to have lifetime sentences. And it's amazing because they actually go through, Jing Forsher's story is quite nice in the sense that somebody had an insight and realized that he was creating his own suffering. But oftentimes there's a process that we have to go through to really cultivate. We're going to be starting a kind of a 3-month retreat. And in some sense you could say it's like being in jail. Can't go out. You gotta stay with these same people. You stay in a little room, and and the first day maybe okay, second day okay, third day wow, we're doing the same thing every day. The food it's okay, and there's a process to it. And what I was really impressed by this program is that it honors the process of inner transformation, of working through past trauma. That's why their line was hurt people, heal people. Is that a lot of this cultivation, for sure things are made from the mind, right? We don't want to dwell on our past mistakes and make a whole identity out of them. But sometimes we have things that have happened to us that are so painful that we don't know what to do with it. And if we just ignore it, it ends up becoming this kind of thing in our hearts that festers. Maybe we like to talk about being abused and kind of being abused as kids or something, but it has to be that extreme. Even just, we grew up in a way that, how I say, it was just a very aggressive environment. Maybe we had to succeed in a certain way to be accepted. Or maybe we were too loved and everything we were doing was perfect, and so we never actually learned how to deal with difficulty. And so our trauma comes from having too much love and being smothered by love. Right? There's many ways that you could say we get quote unquote traumatized or habituated. And we could say, oh, just forget all that, I'm just going to cultivate. But in fact, what happens oftentimes when we have to cultivate seriously is these deeper habitual patterns arise in our hearts and minds. And the question is, can we be really patient to allow them to arise and not move? And treat our afflictions, treat our traumas with a kind of heart of kindness and compassion. And I think that's the melting. That's what you see here as the light of Amitabha Buddha. When we shine that caring light of wisdom on our afflictions, they slowly begin to melt. Usually it's not like this. I'm sad to say, it doesn't go gone. It's that light gently applied, little bit by little bit, works itself out. I remember I was talking to a Buddhist teacher who I really respect, And he was talking about how a college nearby sent him many, many psychologically disturbed people. And he was able to help quite a few of them. I won't go into, I can talk a little about that more, but what I was struck with, one comment he made to me, he says, in the West, I have to say, the way that people are researching how to solve these psychological issues is a little bit, you can maybe say unrealistic, because a lot of times we're looking for the single answer. You can just find the pill or something, and you take that and everything will be resolved. Saying people has developed their ways of seeing, their ways of being, their habits in this life is already could be decades, or from the Buddhist perspective, it could be lifetimes. And to think that we can change it like that very quickly is saying that's oftentimes unrealistic. It takes time. It takes time to really heal. And so I think what I was really amazed by this program is that I think it's a year-long program, and they spend like a whole weekend, on a regular basis. They go and they do these weekend workshops with those in the program in prison, and they teach them completely new ways of being. How do you face your emotions? How do you face your mistakes? How do you deal with grief? How do you watch your mind, right? How do you meditate? And by doing that, they come out, as really aggressive, tight, angry people, violent, because they often killed people. And you see it through this process, and you just look at their face, and it's amazing. Their face softened. Their speech develops a gentle quality. They're able to hold each other's hands and give each other support. They're able to be next to those who they've hurt in the past, and sincerely apologize and say, I don't ask for your forgiveness, because I know what I've done is so painful. No, I'm not saying I don't demand your forgiveness. I ask for your forgiveness. And you see them come out as completely transformed people. And I'm like, wow, that's really, really impressive to see men who were deeply hurt and deeply hurt other people coming out healed and ready to serve, ready to heal others. 所以我刚刚进佛是讲到这个人在监牢里面，在六平方尺的这个监牢里面，对不对？然后说他在监牢里面好像很痛苦，没有地方可以去。但是呢，他发现我可以把我心量扩大，可以解脱，这非常好。他有这样子的能力，心可以打开。但是我想很多时候我们心不是这么快打开的，要过一个时间，过一个过程。所以我记得我在学习当中，有人介绍我在我们附近有个非常严肃的一个监狱，叫 San Quentin， 就在美国这边附近，非常非常就是最在社会上做最坏的这个最伤害人的这些事情，就去那边，可能进去就不能出来了，对不对？所以有个人呢，他发心就是把他的工作，我想他就有地藏菩萨这个精神，就在那边工作，帮助他们设计全部一个修行的一个方式，可以把心改变改善。大部分是佛法的这个道理，但他做的方式完全没有用佛法的字，但是是真正将佛法的道理。他教他们呢怎么来面对自己的以前的痛苦。因为为什么他们有一句说，受过伤害的人会伤害别人，真正被叫回复吗 ？heal 回复 ，heal 回复，
就是
康复的人可以康复别人，所以就是说他们就学习怎么来康复，来面对以前所碰到的问题啊，比方说孩子的时候。他们的故事非常非常伤心的，像听一个故事，他记得他小的时候，可能5、6岁，记得 警察在他家外面一圈，为什么呢？妈妈枪杀了爸爸，他就在那个雪当中，平时那个警察不能进来，他们害怕不知道什么东西发生。他开始就是小孩子就这样子一个经验了，对不对？当他长大就暴力的这个心态啊，使他自己生理这么深的这个伤害。你听这样子的一些故事，就让你就是很惊讶。但是我们当然都可以说有一些这样子的痛苦。我们长大的时候，可能可以说，我们长大就有个压力啊，觉得我们一定要怎么样成功，还是可以得到别人的爱。所以我们的爱不是大慈大悲的爱，我们的爱是有有条件的爱来照顾我们。你像父母可能说，你一定要达到什么成绩啊，还是要什么成功啊，或者我就开始不喜欢你，或者来骂你这样子的，对不对？或者我们可能太爱，那个爱的方式不是真正的慈悲的爱，就是变成好像你变我一部分了。父母也会这样子发生，对不对？就是好像我们本来是没有一个很mature， 就是一个很 mature 怎么说成熟的这个互相的关系，变成一个 codependency， 好像你的感觉跟我的感觉变成好像我没有自己的这个能力站住，就这样子发生。所以我们修行的时候呢，真正要把心静下来，我自己发觉。我们会第一个会面对什么？是我们你心里的这些痛苦，心里的没有真正的成长完美的地方会慢慢出来。所以我们你可以说我们就把就不要放下，我们就只是修行，这个也是一个道理。但是很多时候我们需要一个过程，真正来有这个忍辱心，可以看着这个痛苦呢，不完美的地方呢，那就是这边。就要用阿弥陀佛的这个光明念佛，阿弥陀佛的光明照亮到我们这些痛苦，慢慢怎么样呢？就被消除了，柔软了，心柔软了，身体柔软了。但这个是一点一点的事情，一点一点的事情，不是好像很快的。然后我们这样子念佛呢，我们可以说慢慢我们的心就开了，就这个心里就有个很自然的快乐。自然的快乐，然后我们的善心自然的就出来了，因为这些以前的痛苦呢就被康复，然后康复就快乐了，然后就可以来做善事。所以我记得他们在里面教他们很多很好的这些修行的方式，怎么来面对自己的这个情绪呢？叫 emotion 情绪。很多时候他们都没有字，我只知道我一个情绪就是发脾气，因为我知道我不喜欢的东西我就发脾气。这是我的情绪，他们教他们有很多不同的情绪，你可以悲伤啊，你可以害怕啊，你可以怎么样。很多时候我们男人呢，特别如果是很暴力的这个环境呢，我们不会真正去理解到我们心中的这个情绪，所以你真正先要认识，然后去面对，然后教他们怎么来面对 grief， 就是 grief 就是不是 grief。悲伤、悲苦的这个 grief， 因为可能以前什么人死啦，可能像他们哥哥弟弟啊被枪杀啦，他们心里有这个 grief， 但没有面对过，就开始对别人暴力。然后他们有个这个过程，你要去看着，然后会心里有伤心啊，然后慢慢可以接受。他们就教他们这样的一个过程啊，然后他们怎么打坐？他们说你打坐的时候就像一个烧一样。叫 sitting in the fire， the meditation is called sitting in the fire。你在那边打坐，然后就被像火烧一样。但你在烧的时候，你就要可以有定力，你就把你的以前这些烦恼都烧掉。我觉得他们这样子解释非常有效，因为这是给这些很有力量的这些男人，就他们觉得我在打坐是有个怎么说很有，不是好像。还是没有力气的，是你要真正有真正的勇气，可以来真正面对心里的这些痛苦。所以你看他们呢，从开始，你看有些电影，他们看他们开始的硬的面孔，这样子真正的 好像心是冷的、不开的。这个过程1年，他们的面孔就软下来了，他们就可以哭了，他们互相可以互相帮助，就是有人痛他们安慰，他们碰到他们以前伤害的人呢，就是真正的道歉，但他们说我知道我真正这么伤害你，我不是要你一定好像坚持你要我原谅我，因为我知道我真的伤害，但我想让你知道我认错，我改进，我改变，我现在要把我的生命就是dedicate to peace， 就是发愿，就是要不要伤害了，要帮助人了，要奉献我的生命了。就你看这个过程，真的是很让我们感动的。所以讲，就这个就是阿弥陀佛的这个光明就照进去，你可以这样子说，到这个监狱里面，让我们的心开。所以想这样这个故事，刚刚金佛师讲到啊，我想我们刚才说我们一起这个最近可能这个3个月会有一个在 Berkeley 这边跟在森林里面一些修行，很多时候在一个打气啊这样子的一个活动呢，会就像这个监狱里面一样，因为你不能自己要做事情，你就可以自己去做跟大家一起生活啊，住在一个房间里啊，跟大家吃东西啊，每一天都是一样的一个过程啊，可以这样子说。你可以以为是一个监狱，或者你可以看到这是真正的一个解脱路，一个解脱路。好
，OK， 好。
所以你要讲 Kennedy，
Yeah.
Roosevelt， no，
Yeah， 讲美国总统啊，
对，
就是说他这个总统他，有一天他出去工作，然后晚上回来，哇，发觉有他的东西被偷了，小偷进来偷了东西，然后这个事情也就传开来了，所以报纸啊各方面都登了，哇，这个就是大家知道，但是其中他有一个好朋友特别来写信给他，说这个来，当然写信给他就是说希望来慰问，来给这个总统。他说总统先生你被小偷偷了，我非常为你担心，好像是上帝对你不公平啊，这样子，才会你会遭到这个偷东西的这个，他这个信又跟他说东西丢了呢，就是说丢了就丢了啦，然后这个身体还有精神呢最重要，希望你不要太多过分的这个伤心来影响健康，希望你天天都非常开心这样子。
So what president was this?
罗斯福。
Oh, Teddy Roosevelt. Okay, so this is Teddy Roosevelt. So at one point, Teddy Roosevelt had his, I think, house broken into and a lot of things stolen. And so this became big news, and it was on the newspapers that he had many things stolen. So one day, Franklin Roosevelt, yeah, and he had a good friend who wrote a letter to him saying that, Mr. President, I empathize with your plight, that you have all your things stolen, and you feel God treats you unfairly. However, things are things. They get stolen. We want to be able to let them go. We still have our lives. We still have our energy. And I hope that you don't end up worrying so much about this that it influences your health, that you can still live each day happily and peacefully.
然后
Someone wrote Franklin Roosevelt. I think it's Franklin Roosevelt. Yeah,
所以
Teddy Roosevelt.
后来这个罗斯福总统看到这个信以后呢，他就跟他回信，他跟他写说，亲爱的朋友啊，谢谢你来安慰我，我现在很平安，身体、精神都非常好，请你放心。然后上帝也很公平，刚才讲的对他好像不公平，他说我上帝对我很公平。然后呢，以下有3个理由呢，我来感谢上帝。3个理由。
So Roosevelt replied back to this person, says, "Good friend, I am peaceful, healthy, and well. In fact, I find God is extremely fair. And below are 3 reasons I am very grateful to God."
所以这个哪3个呢？第一个，他说啊，这个贼啊，只是偷了我的财物，我的心里面呢，身体也没有受到伤害，这个是第一个。
So number 1, the thief only came and stole my things. My body, my heart were not injured at all.
那第二个呢，这个贼呢，只是偷去了我的一部分的财物，还留下给我一大部分的财物。
So second, this thief only stole part of my wealth, still left quite a lot of wealth.
第3个呢，最后一点呢，我感觉到这个非常庆幸一点，说我不是那个贼。
And number 3 is I 庆
幸就是非常好像是
快乐
lucky 啊
lucky. Oh, what I feel very fortunate that I'm not that thief.
所以这个意思就是说，这个总统呢，他是不悲观的，他的心都是光明磊落的，这个就是一种非常算有智慧的人 ，yeah.
So the president Roosevelt, you see, he wasn't a very pessimistic person, but very, very bright. I shared also a story about this is I think that it was an article titled something like "Victim Treats His Mugger Right" or something like that. And the story is somebody on the subway, a young man pulls a knife on them, and wants his wallet. So the guy, so the person takes out his wallet and gives it to him. And he knows it's a cold evening on the subway. So he says, "Oh, it's pretty cold. You want my jacket?" So the thief's like, "What? I got a knife for you. Want to give me my jacket? Okay, fine. Give me my jacket." He says, "Oh, you want some food? It's getting time for dinner. You get some food?" The doctor was like, "What?" So, "Yeah, I always go to a place nearby here and get some food. So you want to join me? I think you get some food." And so he's like, "Okay." So they go to this guy's favorite restaurant. He always goes there all the times at night, and so they have the meal, and this young man is actually very well loved in that restaurant. He knows all the waiters and the owner and everybody. And this other guy who's kind of the thief's like, "What in the world? Do you like own this place? Like know everybody?" He says, "Yeah, I just really enjoy this place." He says, "But like you even know the dishwashers." So yeah, I like to everybody I just really respect. He's like, "Wow, you're a very strange person." So they finished the meal, and the guy says, I pay for the meal, but you have my wallet." And he says, "If you give back my wallet, I'll pay for the meal." So he gives back the wallet. He says, "Would you give me one thing?" He says, "What?" He says, "If you can give me your knife." And the guy actually says, "Okay." He says, I hope you can find another way of living your life. And the story was actually it was an NPR interview with this guy, which is kind of funny. in this terms of interaction. But it's also very moving that he, somebody who, being in a difficult situation, could use kindness to cut through the kind of you could say the exterior down to the actual heart underneath. 所以这个故事我记得是一个人，他在那个火车站有一个小年轻男人拿一个刀子来要抢他，拿他的那个钱呢，所以就要给他的钱给他，但是他看蛮冷的，所以他说哦，你要不要我的夹克啊，这么冷。这个人很奇怪，这个人很奇怪。好啊，你给我你夹克，拿他夹克。说哇，现在也快要吃饭的时候了，你要不要吃一点饭？我知道这旁边有个很好的地方可以吃饭的，所以OK， 好，我们去吃饭。他们去拿食物，订食物啊，怎么样？这个人呢，跟这个餐馆呢非常有什么有关系呢？就跟很多人沟通啊，他们很多很喜欢他。他说啊，你这些人全部都知道你啊，你是不是老板啊？说不是啊，我就是常常来这边。但是你说甚至这个洗碗的人你都知道啊？说对啊，我对一切人都是很尊重。那他说这个你很奇怪，我听过有人像你一样的，但我没见过这样子的人过。所以那个人说，最后等吃完饭的时候，他说我会 treat 你，我会付钱喂你吃，但是我钱都在你那边。如果你给我可以还给我的钱，我可以付你的这个晚上吃的饭。他说 OK 好啊，就给他的钱给他回来。说好啊，那你可不可以给我一个东西？他说你要我什么东西？说你可不可以给我你的刀子？你的刀？他说 OK 好啊，就给他的刀，说希望你可以找到一个生活会比较对你会比较好的这样生活。所以这个故事呢，就在我记得这个新闻上面很蛮感动的。这个一个人他可以碰到危险的时候，有能力还可以用善心、用慈悲心，可以说用这个光明照到人的，照出他的烦恼，柔软心柔软身柔软，可以无烦恼，对不对？所以这个我想是很感动的。很多时候我们是用无明来做事情，没有光明，变成怎么样呢？身体硬，心也硬，我们的很多苦恼，然后我们不是善心自然出现，是恶心自然出现。So oftentimes we treat things, we don't use light, we use, you could say darkness, which is like ignorance, delusion. And so rather than our bodies and mind become more pliant and soft, our bodies and mind become more hard and rigid, tight. And rather than our hearts becoming filled with joy and happiness, it becomes afflicted, sad or angry or violent. And rather than thoughts of goodness naturally arising, we have thoughts of harming ourselves, harming other people, hostility. And it's just a kind of endless cycle of suffering. Yeah.
像这个抢劫在美国太多了，因为有不只是有刀，还有枪，这个是最厉害、最不好的。
In Forster says that also in America there's oftentimes robberies and that's not just knives, they also have guns. 但我记得你有一个故事，有抢劫。
Yeah.
Jim Forster has a story too, but I don't know if he wants to share it.
Yeah. 我想像这个古代的时候的抢劫蛮有名的，就是那个我们知道祖师有一个姓沈的祖师是什么这个莲池大师莲池大师呢，他的祖父呢叫做松仙呐，松仙，他的阿公啊，他公公啊，叫做松仙然后呢，他是真的是非常的，当时是非常有德行的，因为就是发生在他家里呢，这个故事都一直被记载，下来到现在都有，然后他这个 算白天发生的。白天呢，有一个小偷也是一样的来偷他的东西，然后偷完了以后呢，就脱下了他的这个衣服，把它包起来，包他偷的东西。那这时候他的这个阿公呢就起来就看到这个小偷了，小偷一看到就赶快就逃走。
So there's a story from ancient times about a thief as well, another thief. This is great master Liang Shi's grandpa, right? Is it grandpa? Grandpa?
Yeah,
Grandpa?
yeah.
Grandpa. Named Song Xuan, who was a very virtuous man. That there's a story about something that happened during his life that is recorded up to this day. And it was a thief came to his home to rob him. And it was during the daytime, actually. So the thief came and gathered all his stuff and put it in his clothes. He wrapped it up on his clothing to steal it.
他自己的衣服
Yeah, and
小偷的衣服
so 小偷衣服 and wrapped it up in the thieves had some clothing and wrapped it up. And at that point, his grandpa Song Xuan found him, and so the thief was startled and ran away.
然后他这个走一跑掉呢，他的这个阿公呢，赶快他看到这个小偷，他偷的东西没有拿走，连他的衣服也没有拿走，所以他就赶快追出去，他追去给说，赶快拿走你的衣服，赶快衣服一起都拿走了，赶快这样子，然后再追这个小偷，要还给他东西。
So Song Xuan saw, this thief is running away, and he said, his clothes is still here, all the stuff he was trying to steal is still here. Oh no, he left all his stuff. So he ran after the thief, saying, no, you left all your stuff. You left all your clothing and all the things you're trying to take. Oh no, you better don't leave it behind. So he chased after the thief.
然后呢，真的他这个人家问他怎么样子，他是说我真的不忍心他没有得到什么东西，而且反而失掉一个衣服。
The people ask him, what are you doing? He said, I feel really bad. He came and didn't get anything, and he actually lost his clothing.
所以当时当然也有一些人说他这个他阿公呢是真的非常有一点愚痴啊，非常愚痴的。但是呢后来当然有很多人赞叹呢，他是非常慈悲的，他是非常来怜悯这个众生的。
So some people say, he's just too foolish, just too naive. But other people also praise him, saying, wow, he's truly compassionate. He's very compassionate.
所以这个是一个非常慈悲。刚才也讲到，我们要有慈悲心。
Yeah, 要慈悲心。
这个是非常重要，做人啊。
Yeah, but at the same time, we should probably just balance out the talk. If we're in a situation that's dangerous, and we don't quite have the virtue and wisdom and kindness, we want to definitely be safe. We want to be mindful, and I probably, at least for myself, I don't know if I would run after the thief. I would probably, call the police. So you have to use your wisdom. But these stories are to inspire us that we are oftentimes in less dangerous situations. Maybe we're just with family members at home or in the monastery with Dharma friends cultivating. And they're not holding us at knife point. They just say something that we don't agree with. And rather than getting afflicted, we can treat them with kindness. And I think that's more doable. 所以像我们也要有点可以说智慧，要安全。我想这个故事是让我们很感动，可以真的是慈悲。但是我们大部分要看我们的安全。如果真的有个土匪来，我们可能不要追那个土匪。我们想要还是安全，可能最后有跟警察沟通啊，怎么样，看情况，看我们个人的智慧。但是可以说用这个例子呢，可以来启发我们的心，就是我们 在家里呢，可能跟我们的家人一起住啊，或者跟我们同修，同参道友啊，在道场里面修行呢。事情发生，有人讲什么话啊，做什么事情啊，他们没有拿刀子来刺我们，他们只是讲一句话，还有想一些事情，或做一些方式，不跟我们的想法是一样的。我们可以很烦恼啊，很生气啊，或者我们可以说 OK， 我可以放下，慈悲心来对待，这个我想是可行的。好，
像这个经文里面有提到，就是遇到时光啊，就是你碰到这个光啊、佛光啊各方面的这个，然后你的三垢消灭啊，就是说你的一些痛苦消灭啊，像这个在弘一大师里面呢，他也有写到这个一个故事里面呢，就是晋朝弘一大师他是依照这个莲池大师里面的这个故事讲的，他就是在晋朝发生晋朝的这个法况，这个法师，这个人啊，这个他也是非常有道德的。
So there's another story when the light of the Buddha is able to dispel suffering. So this story comes from the Jing dynasty, recorded by Great Master Hong Yi, that he saw maybe from the writings of Great Master Lian Chi. And it's about a Dharma master named
法况。
法况，Dharma Master 法况。
然后呢，其实他这个人呢，很早他就父母亲都往生了，然后由他的这个继母，就是另外有一个母亲来孝养他，他来孝养这个他的继母，因为他父母亲不在，可能就另外有一个女人来养这个，然后他非常孝顺家。
So at a very young age, both his parents passed away, so he had to grow up with an adopted mother.
然后他这个后来他就出家呢，出家在这个这个谭运法师的底下来出家做沙门。
So he left home under Great Master Tan Yun.
然后谭运呢，他就后来就发生他的病呢，生病非常危险，然后他的这个弟子呢，就是法况呢，他就来变成来跟他就是来拜佛，来拜这样子来祈祷他的这个老师能够这个法师能够赶快好起来，所以就是礼忏，来跟礼佛啦，来拜忏一样的，来做7天7夜。
So the teacher, Dharma Master Tan Yun, got sick, very, very seriously sick, to the point almost of dying. And Dharma Master Fa Kuang prayed to the Buddha, hoping that he would recover. So he bowed and repented for 7 days and 7 nights on behalf of his teacher.
然后呢，他这个跟他礼忏了7天7夜呢，然后他这个有到最后忽然间呢，有5色光明照到这个他的这个谭运法师的房间，然后照进去以后呢，这个谭运法师好像说，有人来跟他摇他的手，然后呢，以后呢，他的病就全部都好了。
So after his repentance, 5 colored lights shone into the room of Dharma Master Tan Yun. And he felt like somebody 就握他的手啊。
来震他的，来摇他的手啦，就是。
So somebody came maybe somebody came to comfort him, was used his hand and kind of shook him a little bit, and all of his sickness disappeared.
也所以他这个故事就是讲说他诚心来拜忏的，来感动，来出现这个佛光来照这个他的老师，他老师就好了，有这样子的一个奇迹，这样子的故事被记载下来。
So there's a story about how he prayed to the Buddha and his teacher's sickness recovered. 我有个佛光故事。I can have another light of Buddha's light story, although this one is not so miraculous, but I think it's very practical, and especially for the men here who are in the Buddha hall, and also for those online who join us for our daily ceremonies. I find for myself, as you're going through the day, sometimes you pick up some afflictions, you pick up something in the heart and the mind. And I find that during the evening ceremony, when we circumambulate reciting the Buddha's name, it's one of the times I'm going to talk about healing. Things start to kind of settle down and kind of work themselves out. And I find the Buddha image behind me very inspiring, and actually is unique because it actually shines light out. Right? It's a stained glass, but the light, there's light behind it, so actually Amitabha Buddha is radiating out light. And sometimes I just imagine Amitabha's light, from the images shining down. And like this, it kind of softens my heart, softens my mind. And somehow I just find that kind of reflection very soothing and encouraging. Sometimes I'm meditating in the hall, and if I'm going through some kind of inner difficulty, I just can open my eyes and look at the Buddha and look at Amitabha's light shining down, and just kind of gain a little bit of extra courage, you could say, extra strength, that Amitabha Buddha's care and compassion is shining on us. And so it's not as miraculous as Jing Fo Shi, but I think we use what we can. That's why we have sometimes Buddha images in our homes, and they inspire us. And I think this one here is unique because it's not just the image; it actually literally shines light out. So that's quite nice. 这是一个佛光的故事。就是我们现在在我们这个佛殿呢，你看我们后面，你直接看到一半，因为太近了。但是你看到，如果你晚课在我们一起的时候，后面有个阿弥陀佛的像，是一个那个颜色的玻璃。这个颜色玻璃呢，不只是颜色玻璃，这个颜色玻璃后面有灯，彩色的玻璃，你看到对不对 ？Stained glass， 对，后面有灯，所以就是有一个光明会出现出来。所以如果像我在打坐那时候啊，心里真正有很多烦恼啊，还是怎么样，我记得很多时候，我们在这边有禅期的时候，很多你一直打禅，你心里可以有的时候感觉很有，心里有个像黑暗或者一个
有事情发生，
就心里的这个不安的感觉，那时候就开眼睛看那个阿弥陀佛的像，就是看他的这个光明，然后就像这样子一样，让心跟身心可以柔软，让阿弥陀佛这个慈悲的光明到心中，就可以慢慢这个烦恼就可以少一点。或者晚上的时候，我们晚课的绕佛，觉得很多时候一天的过程会有点，有时候一些烦恼会出现啊，或者有些心里的这个不安的事情啊，或者好像不高兴的事情啊，但是用阿弥陀佛的这个圣号啊，在阿弥陀佛这个光明之下啊，就可以慢慢就这样消除，就慢慢消除。所以我觉得这个是做一下自己的一个做法，但是每个人可能都不同。你在你家里可能有个佛像，像这个佛像就是让我们可以说我们身心这个柔软，帮助我们这个修行，这样子的一个可以说作用，做这样的一个善用。
OK， 很好，这个金禅师分享他的经验很好。然后这个另外我想再讲到这个异光啊， 见到光的这个事情呢，弘一大师呢，他在教学这个，因为他是力非常研究，人家他都被请去来讲学这个这样子来学力的，所以他有一次在民国22年正月的时候呢，他在讲力，他到了5月，这个事情发生在5月的时候，他们就去开元寺，大陆的这个开元寺去讲这个讲戒律。
So this story, another story about light, is of Great Master Hong Yi, who was a Vinaya master, held the precepts very strictly, and so he would teach the Vinaya at various monasteries. So 民国22年是哪19？
我不知道那个民国22年。
So a 22nd year of a particular time in China. In the 5th month, he went to a monastery to teach the Vinaya.
在5月份的时候去开元寺。
开元寺 so 开元 monastery.
然后呢，这个是弘一大师他自己讲的哈，他当时呢，大家这个很学这个学力的学这个戒律的这个尊重呢，大家都非常的勇猛精进，一天到晚的用功，从来都没有空过的这个时间，秩序也非常好，大家都非常称赞。
So somebody says this is 1933. So during Master Hong was teaching 1933, and he wrote in his own reflections on the event. He wrote that everyone came to learn very diligently. They didn't waste any time. They took every moment as precious to really study and learn.
所以呢，他有一天呢，在这个他们这个宿舍，就是真宗的宿舍的一棵大树下里面呢，站在那里，那时候刚好也是要黄昏啊，就是说天黑的时候呢，他看到这时候的这个宿舍的灯光呢，忽然发起来很亮的光，照着这个宿舍的这个亮起来，这个整个宿舍都亮起来这个光，然后又听到很多在诵经的这个声音，诵经之声啊，然后他都听得非常的入耳，就是他听得非常清楚，他的心中呢非常的欣慰，就知道他心里面非常的安慰，大家那么精进，那么用功，又看到这个不寻常的这个光出现，这个是良好的景象。
So 这个是宿舍啊。
对，他看到。
So one day he went out to the Sangha dormitories, and he stood by a tree when it was dark out already, fairly late at night. And as he was standing there, he saw a very unusual radiance coming out of the dorms. And he could hear the recitation of sutras, and the sound was very clear, and it brought him kind of peace in his heart. And he was very joyful to see that, people were really diligent in their cultivation.
所以呢，像这种良好的印象呢，好像是这个不久就消失了，这个就好像是昙花一现一样的。昙花你知道吗？
昙花是
昙花。
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 昙花 is I don't know. So Udambara flower.
就是昙花一现一样的就消失了。他一直回忆他的这个当时的景象呢，是非常的深刻在他的脑中呢。到现在想起来，在这个大树底下看到的这一幕呢，他永远不会消失，不会忘记的。他这样写道，就是说，大家所有的珍重努力修行呢，都会有发出不同的这个亮光出来的这个事情。
So he said this is truly a wonderful, you could say, sign, this kind of manifestation unusual radiance. And he said and also it disappeared fairly quickly. It's like the Udambara flower. They just kind of blossoms very rarely and then goes away. But he said that seeing this light and seeing the sincerity and hard work of all these cultivators left a very deep impression on him that he would never forget. That he still remembers to this day, in terms of its, people's sincerity and the light that shone from their sincerity.
好，最后一个故事就是说，我们仙公上人，仙公上人的故事啊，他在这个守墓的时候呢，他就是为母亲，因为他母亲往生，去守墓，守墓3年嘛。他是说，他那时候呢，将要期满的时候呢，他附近的村人呢，怎么在这个太阳要下山，然后这个初夜要起来的时候呢，他忽然看到上人的这个茅庐那边着火了，就是着火了，就是烧起来了，然后这个烧的这个火光呢，照的四边的这个四周呢都非常的光亮，像白天一样。其实那时候是晚上，大家看到上人的这个地方呢，他的茅庐呢起火了，然后大家村里面的人呢，就互相来关心上人的地方安危啊，然后就大家拿着水要来这个扑火这样子。
So the last story I want to share is about Master Hua. When he was meditating by his mother's grave, practicing filiality, kind of you could say protecting the grave, after the sun went down, it was about nighttime, there was a bright light around his hut that he was staying in, and it shone so bright in all different directions. It was like daytime. All those in the village saw the light and were afraid that the hut had caught fire, so they came to try to protect the master, who was still fairly young, and they all brought water buckets.
然后呢，他们都来了，这个拿着水来，发现没有火啊，上人他正在这个茅庐里面呢，在念佛，在念南无阿弥陀佛。哇，这个事情大家就明白，哇，这个是上人他念佛，真的是感动的这个火光出来。然后呢，后来这个更多的人来敬仰这个上人，这个事情也是发生上人这个修行的时候。
So when they all arrived, they said, "Wow, there's no fire." All they saw was Master Hua sitting there, and he was reciting Amitabha Buddha's name. So everyone was deeply moved by what they saw, and so many of them had great faith in Master Hua and admired him deeply, and also those in the surrounding areas when they heard the story.
好，我想我们时间差不多，因为我们今天晚上有一些活动要再继续。
So let's dedicate merit. We still have other activities we have to do.
Yeah.
Let's say just in terms of announcements, this Saturday, we're not going to be having our regular Dharma activities because we have another kind of opening day at our monastery down in Road Vihara. And then from then on, Sunday, we will begin our regular activities again, broadcasting hopefully from Road Vihara if we get all the technology to work. 星期六呢，我们中午的念佛跟念那个阿弥陀佛的法会呢，可能取消，因为我们中午有活动在红木禅林，但是我们星期天应该又开始了，所以大家欢迎来参加。我们看看我们要搬到红木禅林这些电脑方面的事情，希望一切都顺利。好，我想我们有没有什么别的东西要讲的吗？报告了吗？
没有。然后是不是 我们礼拜天我们都一样的照常这边的活动嘛，对。
对
Yeah, come in Sunday.
，Yeah，
Yeah， 礼拜六我们去Highway 9那边去做活动了哈。然后礼拜天我想我们念佛啊，是不是来改12点到12点半这样子？这样子的话，我们有更多人可以参加念佛。
So Jing Forsher is suggesting that we recite the Buddha's name from 12 to 12:30, and then more people can recite the Buddha's name. I think the more people, Jing Forsher can recite the Buddha's name. Jing Forsher is now learning English every weekday at 12:30. So if he's at 12 to 12:30, he can come join, and you can enjoy the radiance of Amitabha Buddha together.
Yeah， 所以有希望说能够改到 Yeah， 就从礼拜天开始，中午念佛12点开始到12点半，半个钟头。
So we would like to start the afternoon recitation on Sunday from 12 to 12:30. Sunday, 12 to 12:30.
好。
Okay, so let's do our dedication of merit. So this is a good chance to share the light of learning the Dharma together with all living beings. You can just imagine the light shining out. Okay. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Okay, so that concludes our evening sutra lecture. Hope you can join us for another day of practice tomorrow, and also our sutra lecture next Thursday. Otherwise, wish you a good evening. Amitofo.
Amitofo.
Amitofo.